Right mates, how's it going? In today's video, it's chapter 15 of Tides of Darkness by Aaron Rosenberg. I forgot to write an intro again, so let's just go!
Let's go! Get your gear and get moving.
Doomhammer watched his warriors for a moment, but then turned round to see Gul'dan staring at him like a weirdo.
What? My clan and I will remain here for a time. I have other plans for the Altars of Storms. Plans that will aid the Horde in its conquest.
Doomhammer frowned. He didn't trust this little ugly dickhead, but he couldn't deny that the two-headed ogres had proven immensely useful. Yes, those bloody dwarves and their griffins had handled them pretty easily, but without the ogres, the Horde may not have been able to break the Alliance's lines, which had given them a small window to regroup at a crucial moment.
Do what you must, but don't take long. We'll need every advantage if we want to conquer Lordaeron quickly. I will not delay.
There was a weird grin on Gul'dan's face that troubled Doomhammer a little bit, but Zuluhead then came running up to give a report.
We cannot breach their defences. Even the dragons can do nothing. Their fire watches over the city but does not touch it, and their claws are repelled by some invisible barrier. The sun will. The elven source of magic.
Of course Gul'dan would know of such a thing, Doomhammer thought.
Is there a way to destroy it? Or drain it? Tap it for ourselves? I've tried. I can feel its power, but it is of a kind unfamiliar to me. I suspect only the elves can gain its power, for it is tied to them in this land. Can you use the altars to break their defences?
Again, Gul'dan grinned.
That is one of the things I'm attempting. The altars were crafted from the elves' own rune stones, which were originally powered by the Sunwell. I may be able to use that link in reverse, sending my own magic into their power source and either destroying it or wresting it away from them.
Doomhammer disliked the idea of placing such potency in Gul'dan's hands, but it was better than leaving it to the elves.
Do what you can, but breaching the city is secondary. We can't get in, but they can't get out either.
The Warchief then turned his attention to Zuluhead.
Same goes for your dragons. We may need them, their capital city. If you've not managed to break their barrier after a few more days, leave it. And come join the rest of the Horde. And make sure that little warlock bastard joins you. If necessary, I'll order a dragon to snap him up and carry him in its belly.
And with that, Doomhammer buggered off, to make sure his own Blackrock warriors were ready to set out towards their next target. A few hours later, the Horde marched. Gul'dan and Cho'Gul watched them leave, waving goodbye like a couple of grandparents or something. But as soon as the last orc disappeared from sight, Gul'dan turned to his two-headed buddy.
Are we ready? Ready. Good. Tell your warriors we march at once. It's a long way back to South Shore. Zuluhead is occupied with that elven city. He won't even notice we've gone until it's too late.
What if he sends his dragons after us?
He won't. He wouldn't dare do so without Doomhammer's orders. And that means first sending a messenger to the rest of the Horde, and then waiting for a reply. We'll be well beyond their reach by then. And Doomhammer won't be able to spare any of his remaining troops to come after us. Not if he wants to take that human city.
Gul'dan then giggled to himself. For weeks, he'd been trying to figure out a way to break free of the Warchief, pursue his own agenda. And now Doomhammer had basically handed him the perfect solution. He'd fully expected the bloke to deny his request to stay behind, but no, he allowed it like some kind of moron. Meanwhile, Doomhammer crept along a narrow trail. 'Twas night, and his people were sleeping, but he had urgent business to attend to. So he continued silently until he reached a valley, and in that valley awaited a cloaked figure. Hello?
I'm here. You speak common. I know your tongue. You sent that message?
I did. I thought it might be best if we met, before any unpleasantness occurred.
Very well.
Doomhammer glanced around to make sure this man hadn't brought assassins, but there didn't appear to be any.
I'd not expected a human to contact me, especially in such a manner. Is that how your people communicate? With trained birds?
It is one method. I knew none of my people would be able to get close enough to convey a message to you, so I sent the bird. Did you kill it?
We didn't realize it was a messenger until we found the parchment on its leg. By then it was too late. Hope you didn't want it back.
It was only a bird. I'm more interested in preventing a much larger number of regrettable deaths.
So your message said, what do you want from me?
Assurances.
Of what?
I want your word, as a warrior and a leader, that you will keep your warriors in check. No killing, raiding, razing or other atrocities here in the mountains. Leave my cities and villages intact, and do not hound or hunt my people.
Doomhammer considered this.
And what do we get in return?
Free passage.
Oh?
You and your warriors seek to cross the mountains and invade Lordaeron. These peaks are treacherous. Your horde might suffer heavy losses and be weakened before you even reach your goal. I can show you which paths to take. You'd be able to pass through the mountains quickly and unopposed.
So you clear the way for us. We leave your lands unharmed in return.
That is correct.
Doomhammer stepped forward until he was no more than about 2 feet away from the cloaked man. This close, he could make out some of the bloke's features. Guy kind of weirdly reminded him of Gul'dan in a way, with his narrow, calculating shit face.
Very well. Show me the quickest path through these mountains and I will lead my warriors through at speed without stopping for plunder. When we conquer this land, I shall place my protection around these mountains. You and yours shall be safe.
Excellent. I knew you'd be reasonable. Here's a map of the area. This here valley is marked to help orient you.
Right.
Okay then. Well, I'll just be off.
After a few awkward moments, the guy finally turned his back and walked off. The Doomhammer considered the situation. One quick blow is all it would take. Guy had already handed over the map like an idiot, but that would be dishonourable. If there was one thing Doomhammer wanted more than anything else, it was to restore his race's pride and purity. They were more than just bloodthirsty savages. Sometime later, Perinold stood in his Alterac throne room, or whatever you want to call it, when a general and several officers entered.
You summoned us, Your Majesty. Yes, come in. I've just received some new information about the Horde and its movements. I wish to share it with you.
The general and officers exchanged quick glances. They'd not heard anything.
I have it under good authority that the Horde is indeed heading towards us. They apparently plan to invade Lordaeron, and have chosen to cross the mountains in order to reach it.
How far away are they? Perinold raised a hand to hush the murmurs.
That is not our concern. Not our concern, Your Majesty, but we're part of the Alliance. I have reconsidered our options, and decided to realign ourselves in this conflict. Alterac is no longer part of the Alliance, effective immediately.
You what, mate?
I have formed a non-aggression treaty with the Horde. We will not hinder their progress through the mountains, and in return they will leave Alterac unharmed and untouched. So you would have us conspire with the Orcs, Your Majesty?
At that, Perinold lost his composure a little bit.
Yes, General. I would have us conspire with them, because I would have us survive. Do you have any idea what we're facing? The Horde. The entire Horde. Tens of thousands. Marching through our home. And do you have any idea what these Orcs are like? I've seen one. No farther away from me than you are now. He was enormous. Carrying a hammer it would take 3 men to lift, and he was waving it about as if it was a child's toy. They'll kill us all. Don't you understand? But the Alliance... Oh, piss on the Alliance. Where are they now? Not here. They've abandoned us, don't you see? It is every kingdom for itself now. The other kings would do the same. Can we trust them? We have no choice. They can crush us with barely a thought. But if they hold to their word, Alterac will survive. I don't like this. We gave the other nations our word. You don't have to like it. You only have to obey. I am your king, after all, and I've made my decision. You've all sworn oaths to me, and you will abide by them.
The general and officers all stood silently for a moment, until finally,
as you say, Your Majesty, I will obey. Good. And, as for the Alliance, I will accept any and all consequences personally. Now, as shown on this map, the Horde will march through these southern paths. We merely need to leave them unmanned. Looks like they're planning to strike Lordaeron from the north. Wouldn't take that approach myself, but then I don't have their numbers, or their arrogance.
The general then glanced back up at Perinold, his expression still pretty dubious, despite his previous pledge of allegiance.
The men may object, Your Majesty. See, this is a betrayal of their oaths. If they revolt, we won't be able to stop them. Then tell the men that the Horde will be marching through the northern passes. That'll keep them occupied and safely out the way. I'll station them at once, Your Majesty. Great. Get a move on.
We don't want to risk the orcs arriving whilst our troops are still in the way. The officers saluted and began to pile out the room, but the general did not. He stayed. Something else, General? There's been a messenger, sire, from the Alliance. He arrived whilst you were... He's waiting outside, sire. Well, send him in at once. A young man then entered the room, looking very nervous. Your Majesty, I bring you greetings and a message from Lord Anduin Lothar. Perronel dismissed the general and then walked up to the young man and gestured for him to continue. He says you to bring your troops to Lordaeron. The Horde is likely to attack and your forces must aid in its defence. I see. Does he expect you to report back? The Alliance messenger nodded. Shame. Perronel then pulled a dagger and stabbed the young messenger, who fell to the ground and died pretty quickly. Rest in peace, Alliance messenger. It would have been far better if the message had been a written one. Another meanwhile, a Dragonmaw orc named Braddock was currently soaring high in the sky, atop a red dragon, and it was the best bloody day of his life. He'd never known true happiness, not until he became a dragon rider for his clan. It was the best. His chieftain had had a bit of a hunch, and had sent him down to South Shore just to check on something. And that hunch was now seemingly being proven correct, because the ships were being prepped for departure, and they were not supposed to be doing that. Braddock pulled on his reins and descended, and as he got closer, he saw a familiar face. It was Gul'dan, the warlock. Braddock didn't like him very much. No one did. But he was a dragon rider now. What could he possibly have to be afraid of? Why are you taking the boats? Turn them around. The Horde's in Lordaeron, not across the sea. Gul'dan paid Braddock no mind, seemingly just ignoring him completely. So Braddock descended even further and yelled, I said! Suddenly, Gul'dan's hand shot upward, and Braddock felt immense pain shoot through his chest. Then the world went dark, and then the Braddock went dead. Rest in peace, Braddock. And a final meanwhile, the passes in the mountains were utterly deserted, as promised. The Doomhammer led his warriors through them quickly, just as he'd promised. It only took them 2 days to cross the whole bunch of the mountains. And in that time, the orcs did not see a single human. Not a one. In fact, some of the warriors were actually grumbling about how bloody boring it had been. But their boredom wouldn't last much longer, because now, Doomhammer and his army were in eyesight of a majestic walled city.
This is it, boys. Capital city. Onwards, warriors. Let's bring the fight to them while our war cry still echoes in their ears.
And we're leaving it there! Didn't write an outro either. I know, I'm slacking. Lazy bastard. As usual, links in the description for the book, my Patreon page, my Discord, all of that stuff. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!